StraightalLday.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is a question. Are you keeping it real with yourself? Now, this is a question only you can answer, but I'm going to provide the framework for you to be able to answer the question, and only you will know how honest you're willing to be about what I'm going to present to you and allow you to work with on your own as I give you this masterclass. So before we get into this, let me tell everybody, I have a daily motivation text message that I send out free of charge every single day to everyone who's in my text community. This message is guaranteed to keep you focused, sharp, and on point. If you would like to receive this message, and I mean, why would you not? You already listened to the show. All you gotta do is text me at my number, which is 305-384-6894. And every morning when I send out the daily motivation text, because you're a member of my text community, and only because of that, you'll be receiving that text straight from me. Secondly, workonyourgameuniversity.com is the next place that you take the next step to work with me. That's where you get access to all 37 plus courses that we have in the university. That's where you have the option of being coached directly by me. You can schedule a call to get coached by me. Either way, you'll be receiving both of my physical mailings that I send out every month, like the Black Book and the Bulletproof Bulletin. All of that is at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Let's get into the topic. Are you keeping it real with yourself? Now, this masterclass is really about your self-talk and what we are telling ourselves on a consistent basis about our situations, our actions, our interactions, our outcomes, and what adjustments, if any, we need to make based on the results that we can observe about ourselves. Are we being honest with ourselves about where we're at, what we're doing, what's working, what's not working, and what needs to change, again, if anything? And most people who are into any form of personal or professional development understand that there's always something that can be changed, because no human being is perfect, no situation is perfect. There's always something that we can do better, that we can improve at, that we can get better at. And somebody may say, well, Dre, does that mean all of life is always going to be like this? We always have something that we want to be getting better at. There's never a time where we can just be content and relax and nothing needs to improve. And my answer is exactly. That's the situation. If you are an ambitious person, you're a person who wants to grow and get better and move forward, there's always going to be something that you could grow and get better and move forward at. All right, that's just the game of life. And if you're serious about growth, you're always looking to get better. You're going to die with things that you could get better at. You're always just improving and getting better and constantly advancing. All right, this is just the way that life works. It's not a negative thing. It's actually a positive thing and a great thing. And the people who achieve the most in life are those who are always striving to get better and do better, being that we're all mere mortals. None of us is perfect. So we're always looking for ways to improve ourselves. This is just how it works. So if you're one of those people, that's good. And I'm going to tell you what ways you can keep it real with yourself so that you know, as you're on this journey of continuous improvement, exactly where should you focus that improvement on. Point number one. Today's topic, once again, is are you keeping it real with yourself? Number one, here's the question. Are you capable of telling yourself the truth? I want to pause on that one because that's a very important question that many people think that they can answer that question in the affirmative. But when all the people that I talk to and listen to and the kind of responses and things that I hear people explain about themselves, one of the biggest challenges that a lot of people have is that they are really good at, and this is all human beings as a matter of fact, all human beings are really good at bullshitting ourselves. We are really good at lying to ourselves and telling ourselves bullshit that makes us feel good, but does not help us do good. We are all good at telling ourselves stuff that rationalizes our circumstances, our situation, makes us feel good about where we are, what we're doing, even though where we are and what we're doing is way less than where we could be and even where we should be based on our own goals. I talked about this in episode 2456, Confronting Your Rational Lies. If you didn't listen to that episode, you should, because it is directly connected to this question. So let me tell you a story. If you're familiar with my background, you know my background's in professional sports. But before I played professional sports, I actually got kicked off of the basketball team, out of the basketball program, as a junior in college. Now, when that happened, this is a junior year, so I still had the rest of my junior year. This is in the middle of my junior year, so I had the rest of my junior year and all of my senior year that I wasn't going to be on the basketball team. So when this happened and I ended up off the team, I looked at myself in the mirror and I told myself that even though I thought the coach was a dummy for kicking me off the team, and I thought that I was better than many of the players who were still on the team, I also had to keep it real with myself and tell myself that, well, regardless of what I think about who did what or who I was better than, the bottom line of the situation was that I was no longer on anybody's roster. At that point in college, I wasn't on anybody's basketball team. So the energy created from that honest self-conversation, because I had to be honest with myself about where I was at. I could think whatever I wanted to think, but who cares about what I think? Nobody. All right, I wasn't going to get any rewards for thinking that I was great. I'd get rewards for proving that I was great, but I wouldn't get any rewards for thinking it. So having that honest conversation, what that did was provide the energy that I needed to fuel the gas. It basically become the gas in my tank that fueled me for that year and a half after college, after my last college game. So that half a year junior year, all of senior year, that's 1.5. And then there was a whole year after I graduated from college before I got my first opportunity to play pro basketball. So we're talking 2.5 years. So we're talking about 30 months between the end of my college playing days and the start of my professional playing days. So 2.5 years is a long time to be out of something but still stay focused on it to the point that you could actually make something happen in that space and move on and matriculate to the next level, which doesn't happen to most people. And I'm not telling you that to impress you, but to impress upon you that the fact that I was willing to have a honest self-conversation about my situation and be honest with myself about where I was at, that is why I was able to make my first contract happen. And this is give you all a frame of reference. This is 2005. I signed my first contract to play pro ball overseas. And because I went through that situation and that experience, I am qualified to coach people to this very day, and I can tell people honest truths about themselves. Like, listen, you're bullshitting yourself, you're lying to yourself, or you're telling yourself a bunch of rational lies that make you feel good, but they're not going to help you or us get where we need to get to if you keep up with the bullshit. I'm qualified to have that conversation with you because I had that conversation with myself. Had I not had that conversation with myself, I wouldn't be qualified to have it with you. You get what I'm saying here? And this matters. And this is the reason why a few episodes back when I was talking about building your business building and brand building myths, that you want to be telling your story over and over again. One of the reasons why if you listen to enough episodes of this show, you heard me talk about this before, and you'll hear me talk about it again. One of the reasons why it matters for me to talk about this is because it provides a frame of reference through which I explain to you why I'm qualified to talk the way that I talk on the show. I'm qualified to talk about, all right, you can't be bullshitting yourself. You can't be telling yourself rational lies. You can think whatever you want to think about yourself, but let's look at the objective reality of where you're at. The reason I'm qualified to say those kind of things is because I had to do the exact same thing with myself. Had I never done that, or I didn't share with you that I had done it, then you might not be as open to hearing me say it to you, because you wouldn't know if I ever said it to myself. But because I told you that I said it to myself, now you're open to hearing me say it to somebody else, like yourself. All right, that's why it matters. So I had to look myself in the face, and I had to smack myself in the face with the reality of the situation. And that is exactly what I needed to wake myself up. And it's exactly what most people, including yourself, need to wake yourself up so you can actually stop bullshitting yourself, and we can start doing things that will actually get you to where you want to get to, rather than telling yourself to make you feel good about where you're at. See, the problem for most people is that they can't have that honest conversation with themselves. They can't look themselves in the mirror and say, this is bullshit. All right, what I'm doing right now ain't working. What most people would rather do is talk about how somebody is hating on you, or how the world is somehow against you, or just drown in your own sorrows and feel like some form of victim. And hey, maybe you are a victim, but do you want to keep feeling like a victim? Now, there's a difference between being a victim in fact and a victim in feeling. So if I'm driving my car and somebody runs into the back of my vehicle and crashes up the back of my car, and now I got to put the car in the shop, all right, technically I'm a victim of a bad driver, but I don't have to feel like a victim. So you understand there's a difference between victim of fact and victim in feeling. And feeling like a victim is a choice. Now, being a victim in fact is not a choice. Now, if somebody comes and tries to steal your phone or your purse or something like that, you couldn't control that. But you can control feeling like a victim because it happened. See, that mindset is the very thing that mindset of feeling like you're being victimized, that's the very thing that doesn't give you the energy to push through the facts of a situation. And when you don't have the energy to push through the facts of a situation, then you don't have the power to change the circumstances. So what happens is the facts basically become your reality, and you have to stay right there. You can't change anything because the facts are overpowering any energy that you could possibly conjure up, because you're allowing the fact of being a victim in fact to be stronger than any energy that you could possibly drive up, as I already said. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is, are you keeping it real with yourself? This is a question, not a statement. Number 2, nobody's good at everything. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. Why does that matter? It matters because you need to keep it real with yourself about where you are strong, and even more importantly, where you are weak. This is another big challenge that I notice with people, and I see this more often than I would like to admit, that many people condition themselves and convince themselves that they are strong in areas in which they are not strong. And most people, did I say that right? Yes. They're strong in areas in which they are not strong. And if you ask them enough questions, they won't admit any area in which they're weak, in which they are deficient, in which they really don't know what they're doing and not getting the outcomes that they want. Many people have been conditioned to not want to admit this. And this is especially true in the era in which we live now, which is the me era, the selfie era, the I'm amazing era, because the era that we're living in now, everybody's putting out their own presentation of themselves and making themselves look like a superstar, even if they're not one. And listen, there's a benefit to making yourself look like a star to a certain audience, depending on who you are and what you are offering, while at the same time, you can make yourself look to the public however you want. At the same time, you need to be honest with yourself about where you're weak, so that you're filling in the gaps that need to be filled, even if you're doing that in private. But you got to be honest with yourself about what those areas are. If you're not, then nobody can help you. If you're not honest about where you're weak, who can help you? Nobody, because you're not weak anywhere, so why do you need help? When you know that you're weak in a specific area, that's the area in which you need to be looking for help, often in the form of, or it's going to come in some form from another person. Whether you're asking for another person's time, their energy, their knowledge, their insights, their experience, or their information. You got to get something from outside of yourself. So if you look around at the highest level performers in whatever space, think about your space. Who are the highest level performers and producers that you know of? Most of them have a bunch of people around them doing jobs on their behalf. Why is this? Because the main person is just like you, i.e. not great at everything. The main person at anything is not great at everything. So if they're doing everything, I guarantee you some of those things are being done at a mediocre level, which means if you can do some of the things that they're doing better than them, you should offer to help them, and there you might have a job opportunity. You might have a business opportunity there. Now, maybe today you don't have the resources to have 30 people on your team. Maybe you can't have a bunch of people filling in the gaps for you and doing things that you're mediocre at, so you have to do it because you don't have the resources to bring people in. But let me ask you a question. If you can bring one person onto your team, and even if your team right now is just you, if you can bring one person in to help you out, what role is the most important one that you need filled right now that should not and could not be filled by you? What's the most important role that you can fill right now with someone other than yourself, because you're just not that good at that thing? As I pose this question, I will add that you should know the answer to this question. You should know the answer to this. What's the one space that you need the most help that should not be done by you? You should be thinking about whatever this is every single day. You should be considering what this is. Where do I need the most help? Where can I use the most help right now that would produce a high return on investment, high leverage position, at the same time something that I'm not good at myself? If you don't know the answer to that, you haven't spent enough time thinking about just self-assessing. You should have a clear self-assessment about who you are, what you can do, what you can't do, and where you have gaps that need to be filled. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is, are you keeping it real with yourself? That is a question. Lower your tolerance for rationalization. Again, I gave you the episode where we talked about your rational lies that you are telling yourself on a consistent basis. That was episode 2456. You want to have a lower tolerance for rationalization. Now, I talked about this habit and how much it hurts all of us in that episode. And what rationalization does, it sings us to sleep. It makes us believe that things are okay when things are not okay. And what happens when we convince ourselves that things are okay even though they're not, is that we move a lot more slowly. We have a lot less urgency about things. We think more casually about things. And because we don't have that urgency to move ourselves to serious action, we don't move to serious action. We move a lot more slowly to action, period, any kind of action, and therefore nothing changes. Again, this is the law of inertia. It's easier to stay in the space that we're in and the energy that we're already in than it is to change our energy. And the reason why it's hard for many of us to change our energy is because we won't tell ourselves the honest truths that would require us to change our energy and change our approach. So socially, this phrase of keeping it real with ourselves usually means that we're going to tell ourselves some things that we would otherwise ignore. That's what it means when somebody talks about keeping it real. What we're usually saying is we're going to tell some truth that most people don't want to tell, that most people otherwise want to ignore. And these harsh truths that we may be able to move ourselves to tell ourselves, whether they come from us or they come from someone else, they're usually exactly what we need in order to get our asses in gear and start moving with the urgency that would benefit our lives tenfold if we could maintain this urgency and have it all the time. If you could just keep it real with yourself and be honest with yourself about what is not right, what is not working, what needs to change, and you can remind yourself of this on a consistent basis and in a healthy way. Not in a way that you're beating yourself up and feeling bad about yourself because these things are not working, but that you're telling yourself the truth in such a way that you're like, oh, that you're getting yourself activated. That you know you need to do something different, that what you've been doing, you can't keep it up this way because it's not going to get me where I want to go. You can be honest with yourself about that and do it consistently. You can go very far. The challenge for many people is that they can't. They don't have the ability to do this. They don't have the ability to tell themselves the truth, but they get really good at bullshitting themselves. And because you're bullshitting yourself with those rational lies, what happens is you end up in the exact same spot. This is literally what the law of inertia is about. It's much easier to stay in the same spot than it is to move to a different spot, because human beings are always trying to conserve energy. So if you want to be different than most people, you got to do different than most people, which means you got to go against the grain of your own nature. Your own nature is designed to keep you in one spot, not rock the boat, not shake things up. So you have to go against that nature and do the exact opposite. Get out of that spot, rock the boat, shake things up, do things differently, especially if you're not getting the outcomes that you want up to this point. All said, let's recap today's class, which is, are you keeping it real with yourself? Question number one, are you capable of telling yourself the truth? Can you tell yourself the truth about your own situation? You lost a relationship, you lost a job, you lost a client, your business went under, you're not on the team anymore, something's not working in your space. Can you be honest with yourself about what you did to contribute to that situation? Not what somebody else did, but what you did or what you are doing that consistently contributes to that circumstance being that circumstance. You can't be honest with yourself about that, then we can't change anything. Point number two, understand nobody's good at everything. We all have our strengths and our weaknesses. So anywhere that you are not getting the desired outcomes, you probably need to replace yourself with someone other than you who could probably do that job better than you're doing. But you have to be honest with yourself about what areas those happen to be for you, and what areas you most could use some help if you had the opportunity to bring in some help. Where would it be? Who would it be? Why is that? You should know the answers to these. This is all part of you strategically looking at yourself, your life, your business, your career, and knowing where your holes are that need to be plugged. Even if you can't plug them right now, you should know what they are. So if someone came to you and said, okay, I'll plug one of your holes right now, which one is it? You should have an answer. You should know where's the most important area that you want to plug a gap right now. Number three, lower your tolerance for rationalization. In other words, stop telling yourself rational lies that make you feel good about your circumstance, but it's not helping you do good in the circumstance. I talked about this habit of rationalization in episode 2456. It hurts all of us because what we do is we basically lull ourselves to sleep by telling ourselves some nonsense that makes us feel good but does not actually help us do good. In other words, you're bullshitting yourself. And that's exactly what the topic in today's episode. And if there is somewhere that you need help, somewhere that you need to advance, somewhere that you're not getting the outcomes that you want based on your efforts and expertise, that means you need to fire yourself from that job and put somebody else in that space. And that requires you making some type of investment, an emotional investment, and accepting this about yourself, an energy investment, maybe a financial and time investment. But those investments are how you multiply your outcomes. I talked about that in the first episode of this year, about how to multiply your outcomes through investment. That was episode number 2423, by the way. All that said, text me to get the daily motivation, and to tell me your best insight from today's masterclass. Make sure you reference the episode number so I know which one you're talking about. The number is 305-384-6894. And if you believe that someone like myself could help you get to the next level in your business, next level in your personal life when it comes to your mindset, your strategies, your systems, then go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, and you got a few options. One is you can schedule a call with me to talk about being coached directly by me. Two is you can get access to all the courses in the university. There's 37 plus courses, 3,000 plus lessons, a bunch of exclusive trainings, 40 plus of those. I'm always adding new ones. That is all at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Again, workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all day.